Before we dive in, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you love high-stakes sci-fi battles and stories where humanity proves once and for all that we are not to be underestimated. Trust me, this one's going to hit like a plasma shockwave. Now let's begin. The arena loomed like a rust-colored moon over Calyx Prime, its metal spires dripping steam and old blood beneath a violet sky. From the broadcast towers that crowned it, alien voices shrieked in 1,000 dialects, announcing the final spectacle of the cycle, the Feast of War. The place where civilization settled debts not with diplomacy, but with slaughter. This year Earth had drawn the final lot. In the gilded balconies above the killing floor, the galactic lords reclined on translucent thrones. Their elongated skulls and shimmering robes made them look like the gods they pretended to be. One of them raised a clawed hand, silencing the crowd with a single motion. The screen behind him pulsed with the name of the next combatant. Sector 9. Species 741b. Soul Origin. Mocking laughter rippled through the balconies. "They've sent a crate," hissed a scaled delegate, pointing toward the black container now being lowered onto the arena floor by 4 drone carriers. "A box. What is this? A pet?" "Perhaps a farewell gift," another sneered, its eye stalks twitching. Behind the bulletproof observation glass, Dr. Elias Rohn wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. His hands trembled as he checked the readings on the neural suppressor device clipped to his tablet. It blinked amber. "Not good." He muttered a silent curse and glanced at the man beside him. Sergeant Cole Maddox stood still, arms crossed, face like chiseled granite. The arena lights shimmered against the deep scar that ran from his temple to the edge of his jawline. He hadn't spoken since their transport had breached Calyx orbit. Not since the sedatives began to wear off. "It's twitching," Rohn said quietly, tilting the screen toward Cole. "Brainstem activity's erratic. Maybe we shouldn't have." "It knows where it is," Cole said. His voice was low, devoid of doubt. Rohn leaned in. "I told you this wasn't stable. It's not like the simulations. If it breaks protocol." "It won't," Cole said. "It remembers me." Rohn looked back at the crate as it hit the sand with a deep metallic thud. The sides hissed and folded in. What stood in its place didn't move. "Not yet." The announcer's voice echoed across the arena in perfect galactic dialect. "From the forgotten rock of Sector 741b, we present the final submission of the Terran species. Behold, Earth's apex predator. Their last attempt. Their dying roar." The crowd jeered, spat, hooted. Holocams zoomed in for close-ups. A betting line scrolled across the sky, favoring the Crexian stone maw to tear Earth's specimen apart within the first minute. The other contenders emerged from the opposite gates, massive engineered beasts, spiked and plated, bred for nothing but war. Cole didn't watch them. He stared only at the black form in the sand. It hadn't taken a step. Not even breathed. Rohn studied his tablet again, his mouth tightening. "It's suppressing its own vitals," he whispered. "Heart rate near 0. That's impossible." Cole's jaw clenched. "He's waiting." Rohn turned. "For what?" "For my signal." In the arena the whistle blew. The Crexian roared and charged. Its hide was like obsidian armor, its limbs thick as trees, its face a brutal fusion of tusks and mandibles. It galloped toward the black figure in the center. That's when the thing from Earth moved. Not ran. Not leapt. Moved. 1 second it was still. The next, it was in motion, a blur of black fur, metallic glint, and red streaks that trailed through the air like painted death. It met the Crexian mid-charge with a feral hiss that didn't sound like any natural animal. There was no time to react. Its claws cut through the Crexian's throat as though slicing foam. The beast's momentum carried it forward, headless, until it collapsed, twitching, sand darkening beneath it. The crowd fell silent. Rohn stumbled back from the glass. It wasn't even defensive, it chose to let it charge. Cole didn't move. His eyes followed the Wolverine as it circled the fallen enemy, head low, breathing calm and measured. Not a display. Not posturing. Just calculation. The second opponent, a Barzeth Ragewolf, howled and lunged from the far gate. 4 meters tall, it landed behind the Wolverine, jaws already closing around its spine. But the Wolverine ducked, rolled, and came up behind it in the same breath. Its claws found the tendons in both hind legs and tore through with precision so cold it looked surgical. The Ragewolf collapsed, howling. The Wolverine mounted its back and snapped its neck in two. Blood, deep violet and burning, spilled across the sand. Now the silence was not stunned. It was fearful. In the upper decks, a tall, golden-robed lord leaned forward. That's not a natural species, he said flatly. That's a weapon. Earth is forbidden to build weapons, another hissed. They signed the accords. Then they lied. Roan's hands were shaking now. They're going to realize it. We should have destroyed the files. We should have never brought it here. Cole's voice was quiet. They wanted extinction. Now they get a preview. Roan turned to him, eyes wide. You knew it would do this. I hoped. The arena gates burst open again. A bio-titan stepped out, 15 feet of armor-plated horror with a crown of sensory blades. It scanned the sand. The Wolverine was gone. No, not gone. Under. A tremor rolled across the ground. The Titan hesitated. The sand cracked beneath it. Then from below, the Wolverine erupted like a demon from the earth, claws first. It latched onto the Titan's leg, climbed its frame in seconds, and drove its claws through the sensory crown and into the creature's skull. The Titan screamed. It fell. Now there was panic. Not in the arena. In the skyboxes. One of the lords turned to his guard. Signal the bombers. We're ending this match. Now. Roan's breath caught. They're going to erase it. They're going to nuke the arena. Cole didn't answer. He tapped the inside of his wrist, opening a line on a private, encrypted frequency. Alpha 1, he said. Prep Phase 2. There was a pause. Then a reply, distant and cold. Copy. Awaiting visual confirmation. Roan's mouth hung open. You have backup. You son of a... They asked for our apex, Cole said. They didn't ask what generation. The Wolverine stood alone now. Its black fur was soaked in multicolored blood, its cybernetic implants glowing red beneath the skin. It looked up, not at the beast, not at the crowds, at the glass, at Cole. And then, like a soldier awaiting orders, it lowered its head. The lights dimmed. The crowd murmured. And somewhere in the darkness, a siren began to scream. Cole smiled. Now, he said. The arena's lights stuttered as if the systems themselves recoiled from what they'd just witnessed. The Wolverine stood unmoving in the blood-slick sand, red light pulsing faintly beneath its skin. The echo of the siren screamed through the upper decks, a high-pitched keening that warned of protocol override. It wasn't meant for the audience. It was a warning to the lords. Cole didn't blink as smoke hissed from the upper arena walls and new shutters slammed into place, sealing exits. The golden-robed galactic lords began to retreat from the balcony, their expressions stretched taut, the illusion of dominance fraying under real fear. Roan's hands hovered over his tablet, paralyzed. They're going to drop the hammer. A full cleanse. Orbital grade. No trial. No declaration. Cole tilted his head. Good. Roan looked at him like he'd just confessed to murder. Do you know what that thing will do if it survives a purge? Cole didn't answer. Down in the arena, the Wolverine sniffed the air. His breath came slow, controlled. It wasn't panting. It wasn't worn. Not from the Crexian. Not from the Bio-Titan. Its body was designed to heal faster than it bled. Bones reinforced with boron carbide, skin laced with living graphene. The claws weren't steel, they were carbon blades, molecularly edged, strong enough to shear alien armor. But it wasn't the body that terrified the lords. It was the mind. Roan tapped a command into his device. I still have a neural dampener active. I can trigger a shutdown. Cole turned his eyes slowly. You do that and the next time it wakes, it'll come for you first. Roan froze, finger hovering. The Wolverine was watching them again, unblinking. Behind its glowing eyes, something thinking. Remembering. Deciding. Below the arena, deep in the bedrock vaults, the primary reactor was beginning to reroute power. The Lord of Sector 12, a thin-limbed creature made of glassy chitin, screeched into a comm line. Initiate full purge. Level the arena. Burn everything inside. From orbit, 4 platforms locked onto the coordinates and began charging rail-mounted plasma shells. Cole tapped his wrist again. The comm line clicked. Status. A woman's voice replied, sharp, calm. 3 seconds to Phase 2. Confirm target synchronization. Confirmed. Uploading now. Roan turned, understanding dawning. You didn't come here to fight. You came to make a broadcast. Broadcast's already live. Every screen on Calyx Prime flickered. The official feed cut. Across public squares and floating billboards, the footage of the Wolverine's massacre played on loop, and censored, uninterrupted. But it wasn't just the arena now. New files flashed across the screen. Black site documents, DNA renders, memos from long-buried Terran war projects. Project Revenant. Subsection K9R. Notes, uncontainable. Borderline sentient. Weapon-grade evolution. And then a voice. Coles. This is Sergeant Cole Maddox, United Terran Expanse. You declared us extinct. You erased our worlds. You didn't win. We hid. We learned. And we built this. The feed cut to the Wolverine drenched in blood. You built gods, Roan whispered. They're going to hunt every Terran cell for this. You just declared war. They declared it first. On the arena floor, the Wolverine cocked its head to the sky as if sensing something. The air above shimmered. A split second later, 4 plasma lances thundered from orbit, howling toward the ground. Roan lurched forward, slamming his hand on the emergency field generator, throwing up a magnetic shield over the observation deck. The sand buckled. Metal screamed. Then the sky exploded. Fire poured into the arena like judgment. Walls melted. Beasts were vaporized. The shockwave crushed bone and glass and belief in one perfect moment. The entire arena structure folded inward, collapsing under its own failing supports. For a moment there was nothing but flame. Roan coughed, pressing a sleeve to his mouth as smoke and dust clawed through the observation room. The shield flickered but held. Lights sputtered in the ceiling. Cole stood exactly where he'd been. His eyes hadn't moved. You think it survived that? Roan rasped. Cole didn't answer. A long silence. Then, the fire moved. No, it parted. In the middle of the molten crater, something shifted beneath a broken slab of durasteel. A growl rose from below, raw and metallic, filled with rage and life. The slab lifted. Black claws punched through. Slowly, steadily, the Wolverine pulled itself free from the wreckage. Its fur was burned in places, revealing gleaming armor beneath. One eye glowed brighter than the other, like something behind it had overclocked. Its steps were slower now, but deliberate. Controlled. It turned toward the Lord's deck, where the shield had held. Could see them. They knew. Was coming. The last remaining guards tried to seal the high-security exits. Roan stared down in disbelief. How can it even move? That was a direct plasma strike. Cole's voice was quiet. Pain is just another input. And if it loses control? It's not going to. A massive crash echoed as the Wolverine leapt halfway up the ruined wall. Claws sunk into the alloy plating. One step. Two. Another bound. It was climbing the collapsed seating tiers like a predator tracking heat. Toward the Lords. Roan's voice turned frantic. What if they release the second phase units? The Rift Skinners. The whole damn planetary defense force. Cole's gaze never left the creature. Then we'll finally see how far they'll go to bury the truth. On the screen behind them, the broadcast shifted again. Now it showed footage of the Galactic Lords. Corruption records. Trafficking archives. The planetary purges. Every world silenced by imperial decree. The audience across the galaxy wasn't just watching a fight now. They were watching judgment. One of the Lords screamed. Shut it off. Shut it all off. Roan pulled his tablet close. They're jamming the feeds. Scrambling the source. Cole pressed 2 fingers to his comm. Alpha 1. Move to Phase 3. A low thrum pulsed beneath the station. Roan's eyes widened. You didn't? A new tremor. The ground shifted. From orbit, cloaked Terran drones began to decloak. Black, silent, swarming. Broadcast hubs across Calyx flickered again. Then burst into flames. You're not just showing them the monster, Roan breathed. You're burning their voice. We've had enough of theirs. A final clang echoed above the observation deck. A metallic shadow dropped into view, glass cracking under the weight. The Wolverine stood at the outer platform, claws soaked and shining, breath steaming through the cool vents. It didn't roar. It didn't growl. It looked at Cole. Cole raised his hand. The Wolverine stepped forward. In the far balcony, one Lord reached for a disruptor pistol. The Wolverine's head snapped toward the movement. It moved, so fast Roan couldn't track it, across the distance in a single blur, landing on the Lord with such force that bones shattered before the body hit the floor. The rest fled. Cole turned to Roan. Now they believe us. Roan didn't speak. Couldn't. In the ruined arena, fire still burned, but the smoke was clearing. The wreckage stretched out like a battlefield. Above it, the screen glitched once more. This was never a game, Cole's voice said again. This was never sport. The image froze on the Wolverine, crouched above the corpse of a galactic lord. We are the reason the stars feared Earth. Then it cut to black. Silence returned. But not peace. Because somewhere beneath the ruined arena, new signals were rising. The lords had more weapons. More secrets. Earth was not finished. But neither were they. And the beast was still hungry. Smoke hung over the ruins like a suffocating veil, painting the sky in a haze of black and gold as if the atmosphere itself recoiled from what had taken place. The arena was no longer a symbol of imperial glory. It was a grave. Shattered tears. Melted steel. Blood from a dozen species congealed into muddy streaks across the sand. Somewhere deep in the wreckage, the bones of empires cracked beneath clawed feet. The Wolverine moved in silence now. Its breath misted in short, steady bursts, each one rising like a warning flare into the air. Around its shoulders, torn armor plates pulsed faint red, frayed cables twitching like the whiskers of a beast sniffing through the dark. It wasn't just surviving. It was evolving. Again. Cole watched from the exposed skybox where the last of the glass had blown out. The magnetic shield had collapsed during the last tremor, leaving only fractured railings and the stench of burning alloy. Roan was crouched near the edge, still clutching his tablet, his knuckles white. How did it learn to climb walls like that? Roan asked, not looking up. It saw a Crexian do it, Cole said. It remembered. Just from watching? Cole gave a small nod. Roan looked like he wanted to argue but didn't have the strength. His mind, once prized by xenobiological councils across 3 systems, now felt like a pebble in a hurricane. That shouldn't be possible, he muttered. Muscle memory without action. Neuroreplication without imprinting. You told me it was advanced, not transcendent. I lied. Roan lowered the tablet. You always knew. Cole's eyes stayed on the crater. Not everything. A distant boom rolled through the sky. The clouds parted as a shadow passed overhead. It moved unnaturally, no engine trail, no heat bloom. Roan looked up. Stealth carrier? No. Not ours. The sky shimmered and then a second shape followed. Larger. A floating fortress, one of the Galactic Lord's war constructs. Anti-personnel batteries lined its belly like teeth. Its arrival wasn't silent, it was deliberate. The Lords weren't retreating. They were retaliating. Roan backed away from the edge. They're going to sterilize the entire region. Not just the arena. The city. Everything. They have to, Cole replied. They've lost control of the narrative. You think that matters? You think any of this matters once those guns go hot? Cole turned to him. You saw it walk through plasma. Even it has limits. Then let's find them. Far below, the Wolverine raised its head toward the sky. The reflection of the descending fortress flickered in its eyes, twin mirrors of artificial fire. Roan stepped toward Cole, voice lower. You said it obeys you. That it remembers you. It does. Then call it back. Cole didn't move. Call it off before it brings the whole damn galaxy down on us. Cole looked at him. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. You don't understand what it means to be prey, Elias. Not really. Earth was prey for centuries. We watched from the edge while they caged us, branded us, erased our history. We begged. Adapted. Disappeared. And in the dark, we prepared for the day we'd stop hiding. He pointed to the Wolverine. That's not a weapon. That's the last thing they'll ever underestimate. A flash erupted in the clouds. Then a sound like metal tearing through glass. The fortress above opened fire. Lances of white energy crashed down, carving deep trenches across the ruined ground. Debris flew. Buildings at the perimeter folded in seconds. Anything not vaporized was flattened. The Wolverine didn't run. It moved between blasts, dodging fire like it had read the paths seconds before they existed. It ducked beneath a collapsing column, vaulted through falling debris, and leapt onto a pile of wreckage that gave it a clear line of sight to the fortress. The claws on its back retracted. In their place, twin black rods emerged and clicked into place, something no one, not even Roan, had seen before. What is that? Roan breathed. Cole answered without looking. The 3rd stage. You told the council it only had 2. I told the council what they were afraid to believe. Roan's voice caught in his throat. That it can think? It always could. The rods extended, lit from within. Red lights pulsed up the length of each one, syncing with the rhythm of the creature's breath. Roan's tablet lit up, overwhelmed with readings. Frequencies he didn't recognize, emissions not native to any known system. It's broadcasting something, he said. Not distress. Not threat. It's mapping. Then the sky cracked. A low-frequency pulse spread from the Wolverine's location, and every sensor on the fortress above stuttered. One by one their weapon systems flickered. Roan looked up just in time to see a series of the fortress's cannons fold in on themselves, burnt out from within. The Wolverine wasn't attacking. It was disabling. Cole exhaled like a weight he'd carried too long had just begun to lift. Roan stumbled backward. It's not just killing. It's choosing targets. It's deciding who matters. It's making judgment. Another pulse. This one sharper like a whip cracked through space. A second warship broke from its cloaked orbit and opened fire in panic, unloading kinetic slugs across the crater. The Wolverine vanished mid-step. When it reappeared, it was already above the nearest artillery platform, claws driving into the gun's spinal mount. With a twist and a screech, it wrenched the assembly free and used the massive weapon like a hammer, slamming it into the deck until metal bent and sensors died. Roan felt his legs give out and collapsed to one knee. It was never meant to be deployed, he whispered. It was the contingency. The deterrent. A signal that humanity still had teeth. Cole looked down at him. You think we came here to play by their rules? The feed across the city shifted again. Across Calyx Prime, broadcasts began to override standard security protocols. Thousands of holoscreens displayed the same symbol, Earth's old flag, the pale blue dot relit in crimson. Then Cole's voice. To the worlds watching, this is not war. This is memory. No response came from the lords. No plea. No surrender. Only silence and fire. The Wolverine stood now on the edge of the fortress's upper hull, blood steaming from its claws, breath rising in cold clouds. It turned its head slowly, scanning the skyline, watching as flocks of evacuation shuttles scrambled away from the city's core. It let them go. Roan saw it too. It spared them, he said, voice thin. It remembers who it fights for. Cole stepped back from the broken railing, gaze still locked on the distant figure. The ones who never had a chance to fight back. In the shadow of the dying fortress, with the flames dimming and the stars returning to the sky one by one, the Wolverine stood motionless. Its work wasn't finished, but it had begun. The charred remnants of the fortress collapsed in a final groan of steel and smoke as the Wolverine dropped from its hull, landing silently among the rubble. The ground trembled at the impact, but it didn't flinch. Its body was torn, armor scorched, and one of its mechanical ribs jutted slightly where the plating had caved. Yet it moved with purpose. With focus. As if the pain had been calculated and filed away like a data point. Cole tracked its path from the edge of the shattered skybox. Dust and broken glass crunched under his boots as he stepped down into the wreckage. The shattered corridors of the arena's command level lay open to the sky now, offering no refuge from the truth. Roan followed, his tablet flickering with errors, his face slack with awe and something closer to dread. They're gone, Roan murmured. Every lord who stayed behind. All of them. Dead. They made themselves targets, Cole said without looking back. Roan's voice grew strained. We made this thing in a lab, Cole. It didn't just disobey orders. It judged. That wasn't programming. That was decision. He made a choice, Cole corrected. You still can't see it, can you? Roan stopped walking. It. Cole turned and took 2 steps toward him. That's not a machine down there. Not just muscle and metal. That's what we are when we're finally left alone long enough to become who we were meant to be. Every species out there thought we were soft because we cried at funerals and loved our children more than conquest. They saw empathy and thought it meant weakness. But pain made us. War shaped us. We remember everything they did to us. So does he. Roan's voice came quieter. He. Cole's stare didn't waver. He's not an experiment. He's family. In the wreckage below, the Wolverine came to a halt. Its head tilted slightly, one ear flicking toward a distant sound. Boots clanging, boots not designed for war zones. 2 rows of alien peacekeepers rounded the far end of the street. Thin armor. Decorative rifles. Faces pale. They'd arrived too late, dispatched by the Secondary Council to secure the arena after the fighting had already ended. They weren't combatants. The Wolverine watched them in absolute stillness. The soldiers froze. One raised a weapon in panic. The others followed. The Wolverine didn't move. Roan held his breath. Cole whispered into his comm, "Stand down." The Wolverine's ears twitched again. Then it turned away. It didn't run. It walked, casual like a shadow melting into smoke, vanishing between the crumbled walls without a word or a roar. The soldiers didn't follow. Roan finally exhaled. He understood. He saw they weren't part of the decision. Cole nodded. He's learning faster than we ever did. Roan hesitated before speaking again. So what now? Cole looked up toward the fractured sky, where the last pieces of the fallen fortress still burned in orbit. One of Earth's cloaked drones hovered there, silent and patient, scanning the wreckage. They know now, he said. Not just that we're alive. Not just that we're dangerous. But that we remember. Every colony wiped. Every family stolen. Every child dissected in the name of evolutionary hierarchy. That era ends today. Roan stared into the rising smoke. And if they come for us again? Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. Far below, the Wolverine paused beside a shattered statue of a galactic lord, its massive claws dragging through the sand. With one quick swipe, it carved a symbol into the base of the stone. Roan recognized it first, the old Terran sigil from the Diaspora Wars. A warning once burned into warships like a brand. Do not provoke what survives. Hours later, the footage had spread beyond the planetary systems. Broadcasts flooded every known channel, no longer localized to Calyx Prime. The face of humanity had changed, not the bureaucrats, not the apologizers, but the soldier, the scientist, the predator. Back aboard the cloaked Terran vessel hidden in the shadow of Calyx's dead moon, Cole removed his armor and stood at the edge of the decontamination chamber. His face was lined, his eyes sunken, but his voice was steady as he addressed the command crew behind the glass. Status on extraction? Secure, came the response. Subject K9R is in Containment Corridor 7. No resistance. Minimal injuries. Recovery team? Unneeded. He walked himself in. Cole nodded. He knows the ship better than half of us. Roan entered the chamber behind him, scrubbing plasma residue off his gloves. He's not going to stay in that cage long. It's not a cage, Cole replied. It's a safe room. For him. For us. Roan leaned against the wall, studying the digital readout as it tracked the Wolverine's vitals. Stable, focused, alert. There's a question none of us are asking, Roan said slowly. What happens when he decides we're no better than the ones who made him? Cole didn't flinch. Then we'll answer for that too. Roan gave a humorless smile. You really believe that? I believe we're done pretending. No more hiding. No more cages. If the galaxy wants a war with ghosts, then they're about to learn how well we haunt. He turned, heading for the internal bay doors. In the observation chamber, K9R sat inside a containment field with the calmness of an apex predator returned to familiar ground. His breathing slow. Controlled. On the walls surrounding it, screens replayed the footage of the arena in complete silence. The creature didn't watch the slaughter. It watched the moments in between. The fear in the Lord's eyes. The collapse of the false hierarchy. The silence left behind by victory. It had never been about killing. It had been about remembering who needed to be spared. And who didn't. Cole stopped just outside the chamber, eyes locked on the thick glass. The Wolverine turned its head toward him. Not with hunger. Not with anger. With recognition. Cole pressed one hand to the glass. The Wolverine mirrored the motion, paw resting flat where the human's palm met it. For a moment there was no ship. No war. Just a soldier and the thing he'd raised in silence and fire. Behind them, alarms pinged softly. A coded transmission. From deep space. Unidentified fleet signatures entering Terran range sectors. Old enemies waking. Roan looked to Cole. They're coming. Cole's voice didn't rise. It didn't waver. Let them. The Wolverine's claws extended slowly, quietly scraping the metal floor beneath it. It was no longer waiting for orders. It was waiting for permission. And Cole had just given it. The war for Earth's memory had begun. The stars looked different now. Colder somehow. Not because they had changed, but because they had been seen differently. A species that once looked up in awe now looked out in defiance. The galaxy had tried to humiliate Earth. It had tried to display her as a primitive footnote, a lower life form, a thing to mock. But Earth had written its answer in blood and steel, in flesh and fury. And its name had been Wolverine. Commander Rourke stood alone in the observation bay of the Terran flagship Iron Valor, watching the shattered remnants of the galactic arena drift in orbit around the scorched moon. What had once been the entertainment hub of the galaxy was now a graveyard of alien ambition. Twisted metal floated in silence. Debris fields the size of continents sparkled faintly in the void. There were no retrieval crews. No rescue ships. Just silence and the weight of what had been done. Behind the reinforced glass in the biocontainment chamber, the Wolverine lay still. It was no longer snarling, no longer bristling with rage. It was resting. Its cybernetic shell was cracked in places, singed by plasma and scorched by lightning cannons, but its breathing was steady, slow, peaceful. Rourke hadn't said a word in hours. There were reports to read, declarations to review, messages from diplomats panicking across systems. None of it mattered now. All of it would wait. He stepped closer to the glass, pressing his palm gently against it. "You were never supposed to survive that long," he said softly. "It was supposed to be a warning. A demonstration. Just enough to scare them. Not." He trailed off, lips pressed tight. "Not that." The creature didn't move, but its golden eyes opened and met his through the thick, tempered glass. "How much of you is still in there?" he whispered. "How much knows what you did?" The chamber's lights dimmed for a second. Then they brightened again. Somewhere deep in the AI systems, the biolink pulsed. Rourke knew the truth even if no one else did. The Wolverine wasn't a mindless beast. Not anymore. The implants had stabilized its cognition, amplified its instincts, and created something more than weapon or animal. It had chosen to stop. It had chosen not to kill the last gladiator who dropped his weapons and begged. It had looked up at the grand box where the Lord sat and walked away. It could have climbed the walls, taken the tower, torn down the entire structure before reinforcements arrived. But it hadn't. The broadcast had gone galaxy-wide. Billions had watched it unfold. The Galactic Lords, what remained of them, had tried to censor it, but it was too late. Earth was no longer the silent, ignored world on the edge of civilized space. Earth had roared. Back on the surface, a massive shrine had been constructed around the arena ruins. Not by Terrans but by aliens. Survivors. Witnesses. Converts. A towering statue now stood where the Wolverine had made its final stand, shaped from black metal and scorched stone. It depicted a beast of fury and honor, flanked by human warriors not in glory but in solidarity. It bore no name. It needed none. Inside the Terran command chamber, General Halverson's voice crackled over the intercom. "Commander, we have inbound from the Zarathi delegation. Full diplomatic envoy. They request safe approach and terms for contact." Rourke didn't answer right away. He turned back to the stars. "Tell them to wait," he said. "They can wait a little longer." There had been a time when Earth would have jumped at the chance to be recognized, to be heard, to be treated as equals. That time was gone. The galaxy didn't need Earth's voice anymore. It feared Earth's silence. Behind him, a low growl vibrated from the chamber. Not hostile. Not aggressive. Just acknowledgement. Rourke looked over his shoulder. "Easy, big guy. We're not doing that again." The growl stopped. Deep in the secure files of Terran Defense Command, a new project had begun. They called it Project Apex. Inspired by the Wolverine. Not to build another one. That would be suicide. No. They were going to understand why it worked. Why a small creature from a cold, wild planet had become the most feared entity in the galaxy. It wasn't just the claws, or the rage, or the upgrades. It was the will. The sheer, indomitable refusal to submit, to quit, to lose. Rourke turned from the chamber and walked down the corridor, boots echoing in the silence. Behind him, the Wolverine laid its head down and closed its eyes again. Resting. Waiting. Dreaming of snowy forests and the smell of pine. Not war. Not blood. Just Earth. Elsewhere, on 1,000 worlds, children whispered about it. Merchants sold black market figurines. Warriors sharpened their blades differently. Strategists studied Earth's history with new respect. Some with fear. Others with admiration. All with caution. The Lord's dominion was cracking. Their arenas were closing. The lesser systems no longer obeyed without question. Seeds of rebellion were sprouting in places once ruled by iron. And at the center of this tectonic shift stood Earth. Not because Earth had asked for it, but because Earth had survived it. Because the smallest thing in the arena had turned out to be the most dangerous. And the galaxy would never forget the day they released Earth's Wolverine. It had killed everyone in minutes, and spared the future in silence.